Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert. And I'm so excited to welcome you to another episode of the SmallBizChat podcast live. We have an amazing show for you tonight. If you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur as your second act, we've got a serial entrepreneur here who's going to break down everything you need to know. And if you're a local business or a restaurant that's interested in mobile web marketing, we're going to have some great tips for you tonight. And if you're just out here looking for resources that might be that you could get to boost your business or get some free training, we have a head leader of a nonprofit tonight that's going to talk to us about the public-private partnership that's been built to support Black women business owners. Now, we're going to really talk about SMS text marketing tonight. We're also going to talk about how to build a loyalty program for your business. We also have a serial entrepreneur here who spent 30 years in one business and who's now reinventing himself as what he calls a second act entrepreneur. So we're going to hear from him. And then if you are a woman of color in business, you need to know about every good resource that is out here to support you in business. And we have a great leader in that community here tonight that's going to talk about resources that you can access. The Small Biz Chat podcast is a peer-to-peer interview show. We're really focused on getting you information to take your business to the next level, which is why we bring in several guests so you can learn from multiple different angles. The mission of the Small Biz Chat podcast is to end small business failure. And we've been doing it for a lot of years, and we're not going to stop. So let me tell you about today's guest. My first guest is Barbara Casey, who is CEO of Mobile High Five. And we're also going to be talking with serial entrepreneur Eric Brown, who joins us from Detroit. And he's going to tell us about his new book, The Second Act Entrepreneur. And we're going to be speaking with Renee Johnson, who is co-director of the Reimagine Wall Street project, and we're going to learn from all three of them. So now at this time, let me introduce my first guest. Her name is Barbara Casey, and she's a customer engagement and text marketing expert. And she has over 30 years of marketing experience. She was a member of the team which launched the very first frequent flyer program when she was at AT&T. She is now the CEO of Mobile High Five, which provides full service SMS text marketing solutions. So for more information, you can go to Mobile High Five, which is the number 5.com. Barbara, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So let's talk because, are we in a mobile first world? Like when it comes to small business marketing, is it all about these little cell phones we have in front of us?
It absolutely is. And it became accelerated during the pandemic and also with the new Apple privacy landscape that has been rolled out and will be extended once Google joins the party in 2023, I think it is. It will be universally everybody. Right now, it affects about 50% of your customer base, but it's coming soon where you will find significantly less engagement through your traditional channels of email marketing, as well as your ability to retarget that customer that visits your website, because Apple is screening all of that data and not passing it on. So really your best bet is to develop what's called first party data, which is your email list. But as we all know, email is filled with spam, and on a good day, you might see a 20% read rate, whereas texts see a 90% read rate within 5 minutes, 90% of which are read within 90 seconds. So it's really powerful.
All right, so let's stop right there though. I don't know about you, but I don't like it when people I don't know text me, especially
exactly.
People tell me something. Mm-hmm. So I know that you're saying that text marketing needs to be part of your marketing mix, mm-hmm. but like, what are the rules of the road with texting? Because I got to tell you, I say the word stop almost 90% of the time when I get a text. especially from a business, unless it's confirming an appointment I've already made. These ones that are like, oh, get 10% off, or people that I've never heard of, businesses I've never heard of texting me. That is crazy to me. How does that even happen?
So surprisingly, only 1% of the content traveling on the mobile superhighway is spam, compared to with email, which is, I don't even know, it's double digits. So it's not a completely spam-free channel, but I encourage anyone who gets a text from a business that they did not subscribe to that business to forward that message to the number 7726 and report it to the carrier. Because in order to do any sort of text marketing program, it is strictly opt-in only. You have to have literally written explicit permission from that handset before you're legally able to text. So it's virtually impossible to annoy your customers because they have asked to be heard, to hear from you this way. And in fact, 75% of people today would prefer to hear from their favorite businesses by text than by email.
That's interesting. So wait, say that number again. Who do I have to contact when I get
7726?
Okay, 7726.
Yeah, and the carrier will basically investigate that company, and they'll block any numbers, in the future. But you can also reply stop to anything. And if here's the thing, if you don't get an automatic reply after you reply stop that says you have been unenrolled, to re-enroll, do blah, 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 then it's truly spam. And then you can report that. But I would try first just replying stop, because it could be that you did enroll like a while ago and you just don't remember, and so it's really easy to get yourself out of these lists when you no longer are interested. And that's why there's so much trust in this channel, because it actually works to opt out. Whereas email, have you ever tried to unsubscribe to an email?
Oh my gosh. I remember one time I felt like I needed to send a letter asking to subscribe, because every time I hit the unsubscribe button, I was still getting. You
still get the emails. Yeah. It doesn't work that way because, I don't want to go too much in the weeds, but there's a lot of players involved in text marketing. And my business, we just send the messages to an aggregator, and then the aggregator delivers it to the carriers like AT&T, Verizon, et cetera. They are the ultimate arbiter of whether that message goes to your handset. So you have to follow not only the federal regulations, but the carrier regulations.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about the right way to do text marketing, right? So we've talked about the bad stuff people do and how to report them. And thank you for that, because I didn't know that.
Sure.
But what do if I want to build a text marketing program, what is step number 1, 2, and 3? Like, what do I need to do?
So you need to find a provider who has the technology to be able to do that for you, and also an understanding of how to do it. There are a lot of DIY texting platforms out there that you can get involved in on the super cheap, $29 a month, and you get a bazillion messages. The problem with those DIY platforms is, in order to make them DIY, they're really still, they don't do much, honestly. They can send a text with a link back to your website. And they probably can track how many people clicked on that link, but that's where it ends. That's not mobile marketing. That's just throwing a bunch of noodles on the wall and seeing, what sticks, getting your megaphone out and shouting to the world. That's not mobile marketing. Mobile marketing is very strategic. It includes, one of the things that we try to do, what we've tried to do, is really disrupt the industry. We're bringing the same robust mobile marketing tools that, historically were only available to very large brands because of the amount of oversight needed for the program, the amount of technical tools that you have to interconnect and integrate. And we've made it accessible to the small and medium-sized business owner because we are full service. So we not only excel in program design and putting all of those pieces together so that the program actually works, but then we manage it for you. So you don't have to know a damn thing. You don't even have to know how to log on to the platform, honestly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about earlier when we just talked about, what is text messaging and why is it important, but can you tell us some other benefits that can come from using a texting, a text messaging platform? Is it more so for local businesses like, local retailers and restaurants, or is it the kind of thing that any business could benefit from using?
So its best use case is really an established business that has business, like a brand new business. You could do it, but it's not going to deliver return for a very long time because you're building your database very slowly because you just don't have the volume of business. That's number one. This will work for retail, for restaurants, for service providers like spas and salons and auto repair. And we have an investment advisor that uses us. We work with a senior center. It's really, at the end of the day, what mobile marketing is delivering the information that a customer is looking for at the time they're looking for it on the device of choice, which for most of us is our phone. So if you think of it in that way, because everything we do is customized to the client, this is really something that can be used for almost any type of business. We do curbside pickup alerts for schools, after school programs, daycare centers. Restaurants obviously are the logical one, but there's a lot of applications. It's really a communications vehicle.
All right, so now I need you to kind of help me with some technical jargon. So what is the difference between SMS marketing and like SMS and MMS texting? What is each one of those and what is the difference?
Yeah, so SMS stands for short message service. Okay, and what that implies is you have 160 characters, including the link, and that's an SMS text. It's very short, no pictures, and MMS stands for. Can you hear me? MMS stands for multimedia service, which is allows you to send a photograph or a GIF along with your actual message. But the difference between SMS and MMS is MMS allows for 500 characters and a link. So you have a lot more real estate to talk about your offer or your whatever it is you're communicating. MMS tends to, in some use cases, will perform better. Like for retail, it's really slam dunk. I'm not hearing you.
You're fine. Keep going. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. So for certain industries, MMS works really well. I always tell people to experiment when they first start their program and they're just building their database. Try a little of each and see which ones perform better. Even if you have a small database, you can extrapolate those results by percentage wise to see which one performs better. The difference between SMS and MMS is MMS, because of the data cost, it does cost twice as much to send that message. So if you have 1,000, if you have 1,000 messages in your bank and you got 500 contacts, one message will, one MMS message will deplete your bank. If you have 500 contacts and you send an SMS, it's only going to use 500 message credits. So that's the difference. And that price is just our price. Some providers charge 3 message credits for MMS, some 4. So you got to really price that out.
So if someone wanted to leverage text marketing, like what are some of the creative ways people do it? Like other than like appointment confirmation or yes, your food is ready. Like what what are some of the other ways like a service business maybe could use it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have lots of fun with what we do. We try to be, very creative and think out of the box. You can do sweepstakes where you can do a monthly giveaway. You can do surveys. If you're thinking of a product line extension, you want to know if your customer base would be open to it, ask them. I did this for a customer that was thinking of adding a subscription box. She made like soap. And she was thinking of doing a subscription box. So we just sent out a text saying, hey, we're thinking of doing a subscription box. good idea or bad idea, reply good or bad. And within 2 hours, she had her answer.
Interesting.
Gamification, choose your offer between door A, B, or C, reply A, B, or C. And depending on how they reply, they get a different offer. With mobile marketing, it's really all about the data and being able to get as much data as you can from someone so that you can personalize the outgoing message to make it highly relevant to them. So we do that in a number of ways through web forms, asking these interactive questions to get that data. We don't scrape or do anything nefarious like that. We are asking the customer to help us be more relevant for them, and they will often give it to us.
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that when we come back. You're watching the SmallBizChat podcast live, and we will be right back. Are you ready to become a boss? Hi, I'm Melinda, Emerson, Small Biz Lady. Click the button below and take my free boss quiz. This assessment will help you learn your entrepreneur type and find the right business model for you. Get this information about the #1 asset in your business. Yeah, that's you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the SmallBizChat podcast live. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host. And I've been speaking with Barbara Casey, and she's talking to us about text messaging do's and don'ts. All right, Barbara, I got to know. I know for me, when I teach people about lead gen and creating landing pages, I tell people name, email. Now, are you saying that I need to say name, email, cell phone? Because I know for me, I don't like to put my cell phone number in something before I have a trust relationship with people. So what are some of the best ways to build your list of text contact information? I mean, should you buy a list?
No, you can't. You can't. That's illegal. That's illegal. Because remember, we said it's explicit opt-in. So you cannot buy a list. What you have to do is it's a value exchange. So if you're going to ask them for something, you have to give them something. So you create a welcome offer. And you say, and it could be either a welcome offer, it depends on the type of business. It could be a welcome offer, or it could be a piece of information that's of value, a white paper, or something that they want. And in exchange for that, they're going to give you their phone number. So that's one really good way of building that list. The other way is if you do other advertising, you can use the text to join as a call to action. I'm sure you've seen this on TV ads, radio ads, text, offer to 55678 and, get this thing or save this amount of money.
Do those really work? The text?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, so there's a couple of different ways of joining a program. The traditional DIY kinds of platforms, there's only one way. It's text to join. Text a keyword to a phone number. You get a bounce back message that asks you to confirm. That's your explicit opt-in. The other way is through a web form on a website. And then the third way, which we use, is through a kiosk. So if you have a brick and mortar, we set up a little proprietary tablet that's customer facing. It has, slideshow about your business and all kinds of good things. And then there's a keypad, and the staff simply says, would you like to join our rewards program, or, would you like to join our VIP club, whatever, put your number in here. So then the customer puts their own number in.
Got it. So when it comes to sending someone an SMS message, how important is it to have it personalized, to have, hi, Melinda, I want to let you know about this 10% offer we're doing today because it's, our customer, because it's our company anniversary or something like that.
Anytime you can personalize a message, it's better. Personalizing can be your name. It can also be something we know about you. So we work with a beer store. So during opt-in, we asked them, we had to age verify them, first of all, because you can't text someone under 21 for a beer store. So we asked them, what information would you like to hear from us? So we asked, do you want to hear about new releases? Because there's a lot of beer nerds out there, apparently. Do you want to hear about our monthly giveaway? Do you want to hear about our sales? What do you want to hear? And they check the boxes, and then that puts them on a segmented list. So now we're able, because we have that data, to personalize the outreach so that it gives them exactly what they're interested in, because otherwise it's just junk mail. It's the equivalent of the old junk mail that you threw in the basket.
Sure. So bottom line for you, you feel like text messaging is going to become the number one channel by when?
I think it is already well on its way. There is a first mover advantage still because of the number of customers that want to be able to get texts from businesses, their favorite businesses, compared with the number of businesses that offer this. There's an imbalance, big imbalance. So because it's not everybody yet, if you do it, you're going to stand out. So that's the number one thing to think about. I don't ever suggest anyone drop a communication channel, because everybody consumes information differently. And so there's, your SMS text club is not going to be your entire customer base. It's just not everybody wants texts. Mm-hmm. I believe they are your most engaged people, though. They're the, they say 20% of your customer base delivers 80% of your business. Well, these are the people that are keeping your business afloat, are these text customers. They're your most engaged. So you want those people in your court. And the other thing that you can do with text is refer a friend programs work super well with that, because mobile is very viral. People love sharing things. Mm-hmm. So, you can use that to turn your customers into brand advocates and get their friends on board. And with texting, you're reaching everybody. If you go with the app approach, it's only the people that download the app, and it's only if they enable notifications, which not everybody does. And it's only if they remember their password. I mean, there's a lot of problems with apps, right? And they slow your phone down, and nobody can remember how to use them. And so they abandon them on average after 45 days. So you've just spent a lot of money developing an app for what?
Interesting. Well, listen, tell me this. This is my last question for you. What is the best business advice you've ever received?
Wow. The best business advice is know your why. Know why you are in business and what is your mission. I really believe that even for-profit businesses should have missions. And if you don't know your why, you cannot remain focused and achieve your goals. The other piece of advice is just stay nimble, because we've all learned that during the pandemic. You got to be ready to pivot. I mean, we did that, the pandemic hit, and, it hit the small business market big, which is our primary client base. So we immediately pivoted and started doing curbside pickup text alerts. And we were the first people on the market with it, because we had a product that we just reconfigured a few things and rebranded it. And we were already out with it while everybody else was over here developing it. So you have to remain nimble.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for your sage advice. I mean, I really feel like I learned a whole lot about text marketing, but we're going to bring you back a little bit later in the show. But thank you so much for all that you shared. Up next, we're going to be talking with Eric Brown. He's a serial entrepreneur that's going to talk about how to become a second act entrepreneur. You're watching the SmallBizChat podcast live, and we will be right back. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to Small Biz Lady University. Our mission here is to end small business failure. So all of the courses here are about two things: how to become your own boss, or how to make money online. So that's what we do here. So whether you want to learn about email marketing and sales funnels, or you're ready to
get started with social media selling, or if you're really just getting started with e-commerce, you might want to jump into our How to Sell and Market Online course. Either way, if you want to learn how to become your own boss and do it well, I have everything you need here at smallbizladyuniversity.com. If you have any questions or have any technical problems getting signed up, just email us at support@melindaemerson.com. Take care.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast live. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host. And I'm so excited to have you with us because we have a next guest who is amazing. His name is Eric Brown. He is a serial entrepreneur and a seasoned urban housing developer. In 2000, he founded Urbane Apartments and developed over 16,000 market rate apartments on a national scale. He's recognized as a vanguard in the family housing industry for his innovative social media marketing strategies. Eric recently stepped away from his company of 30 years to create new side hustles within his new business called Urbane Farm. And his new company is a purveyor of 100 unique hot sauce brands, fish sauces, salsas, barbecue sauce, rubs, gourmet salts, beef jerky, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so he's recently released his first book called Second Act Entrepreneur. And I'm so excited to have him here because I had an opportunity to read an early draft of this book. And as long as I've known him, I really learned a whole lot from his book. So Eric, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Melinda. I really appreciate being on.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you become an entrepreneur, and like, what made you think it was time for you to give your sage advice to others?
Well, growing up, my father and my uncle were just always had a lot of their own businesses. They never really worked for companies. And, 45 years ago, the word entrepreneur wasn't quite as prevalent as it is today. And so I just decided to start my own business really right out of high school.
Well, so what was was your first business the apartment buildings right out of high school?
No, I had a construction business then.
Okay.
And little kind of crazy side story. My wife had, her parents were more of where her father worked in a factory, and they were pretty critical of me in the beginning of not having a real job.
Oh, well, that whole son-in-law is not good enough business. I think there's plenty of that to go around.
Yeah.
But once you started your business, your first business, what do you think was one of like the most important early lessons that you learned running your first business?
Yeah, so running out of money and making mistakes. I've always believed that as business owners, we can afford to make mistakes, frankly, in direct correlation to how much capital we have. So, if you have $10,000 of capital, you can probably make even maybe a $10,000 or $15,000 mistake, but you certainly can't make a $100,000 mistake because you can dig holes really fast.
That's the truth. Amen and amen. I mean, I think cash is king for a reason. So you've got to be real careful with, what your runway is to make mistakes. Now, after 30 years in the, a housing industry, you've decided to switch gears and become a product-based, online retailer. So how did you sort of like make the decision to do your second act, right?
Sure. So post 60, I started thinking about life a little bit differently. There were a lot of books I wanted to read. There were a lot of things I wanted to do. And so one of our partners' nephew actually wanted to get into the property management business. So that we had been talking about it for 18 months to 2 years. And this last July, that actually came to fruition. So I was able to step away from the day-to-day operations and hand it off to, almost an in-house kind of person. So that's worked out pretty well. But one of the things that's interesting, I think sometimes we all we start doing something, and 10 years or 20 years or 30 years later, we're still doing it. And one thing I always, when I look back at my journals over the years, I always wanted days to feel like a Saturday. And I get like that can't always happen, but my wife said to me one day, and this was about year 8 or 9 or 10, something like that, into the property management business. She said, how long are you going to toil at that? Because we weren't really making any money. We were struggling. We had everything we had invested in things. When you're a real estate developer, you don't really ever have any money per se. You're rolling it all the time, and you get funding from investors. And so one of the, and then she went on to say something to the effect of, well, you're living your dream. And I said, my dream? I'm not living my dream. It was just there. And while it was very good to us, it was just there. And one thing led to another, and 25 years go by. So one thing that's always fascinated me is the hot sauce business. And so that's what, we ended up doing here in the last 9 months.
Interesting. So you spent 25 years building a business, and you've been wildly successful. I mean, let me say, you built a $10 million business, right? It wasn't some little business. You built a pretty significant business. 16,000, market rate apartments is no small thing to sneeze at, right? But you said it was just there, well, like I'm going. I guess we are. It's something that was just kind of something to do.
So what you're saying is actually a double-edged sword. When I say it was just there, the opportunities to do it were, the investors came easy. It wasn't really hard per se. Mm-hmm. And then, when you're taking investments from other people that and some that you don't know, you are pretty vested, right? You can't just go, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Sure. And so the more successful you are, the more people who want to invest with you. So therefore, the more deals you want to go do. And one thing leads to another. And then you're like, wow. And it wasn't that I didn't like what I was doing per se, but there's a difference between, doing what you're doing and being passionate about something.
Sure. I can agree with that. So the last 9 months, you built this hot sauce business. And what I find really interesting is you already, indicated that you're over 60. And I thought one of the things that I thought was really interesting is I was looking up some research that said the fastest growing segment of people starting businesses in the US right now are actually people 55 plus. And I thought that was really interesting. But if you look at some more statistics, in fact, the average small business owner in America is 49 years old and has 4 employees. And I'm not sure people know that. I think everyone thinks entrepreneurs are like these young people that wanted to drop out of college, like to start these fintech businesses for some 10x multiple of their EBITDA, right? Like I think there's a perception that that's who entrepreneurs are, when in fact, entrepreneurs are you. entrepreneurs, and there's advantages, right, to being a 50 plus, or 60 plus entrepreneur. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of like the advantages of being a 55 plus entrepreneur, but also some of the things that you need to think about when you're that age and starting a brand new venture.
Yeah, so I think, I think part of that has to do with, the baby boomers were one of the largest group of generation. And so many of us are becoming I like to use Chip Conley's label of modern elders. And so, but, so what are the advantages? The advantages are you have a lot of life experience. Many times you've either run a division for your employer or maybe even ran the company. And so you have a lot of business experiences, but you also have an enormous amount of relationships that you've created. And, so for me, one of those were in 2008, when the economy slowed down, we were doing a lot of marketing work as well. And we were in the hot sauce business then, and we had a small company within the hot sauce business, but we were producing our own. And I had met this group from New York who he started to procure different hot sauces. And so I don't know if he would have remembered me, but I actually reached out to him. And when I started this new venture now, and he did remember me, and we were able to get a wholesale account set up. So to get these 150 to 200 brands of hot sauce. Well, if I wouldn't have had those connections, and sometimes you don't even know if, as I said, you don't even know if they're going to remember you, but sometimes they do. And in that case, it worked out well. The other side of all that coin is you don't necessarily want to lose ground, right? So when you're younger, it might be okay to bet the farm. And I've done that a couple times myself, but you don't necessarily want to do that as you age. So yeah, I think it's a great time to, because certainly I didn't want to stop working. I mean, I've always been a hard worker and put in lots of hours. I wanted to be able to spend part of my time working and part of my time reading, writing, studying, hiking, that kind of stuff.
Well, let's get to that. So tell me about your book, The Second Act Entrepreneur. How did you write it? And, what do you want to teach people?
I guess what I really wanted to have a takeaway was I talk a lot about what did not go right. And, over a long career, I don't think I was any different than anyone else. There's a lot of things that go sideways. And, the whole adage of it isn't necessarily what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And, that whole thing about capital and money and extending your runway, more than once, I made some mistakes that had 5 zeros behind them. And so you don't dig out of that in a quarter or a few months. Sometimes it takes a few years. So there's a big ebb and flow. And you talk about all that stuff in Becoming Your Own Boss, and this whole thing about financing a startup business on credit cards is a bunch of hooey. I mean, I guess some people do that, but it's not a very good idea.
Well, I think some people do it because they just don't have a lot of access to capital any other way. I certainly know a lot of minority entrepreneurs are forced to do that. And frankly, I did it too. So I had one small SBA loan, micro loan in the beginning, and the rest literally was my credit cards. And that was 23 years ago. But I also had a home that I could put up as collateral for that loan, right? So I think it's about how you position yourself financially before you go to start a loan. But you and I both know, Eric, banks do not loan money to start up businesses. They don't even want to talk to you until you've been in business at least 2 years. So I think there's a lot of people that have done the bootstrap thing because they just didn't have the opportunity. But what I want to do right now is go to commercial. And when we come back, I want to hear more about Urban Farm, and I want to try to sweet talk you into sending me a basket of those hot sauces you got, because we like to test hot sauces around here. So you are watching the Small Biz Chat podcast live, and we will be right back.
Are you ready to become a boss? Hi, I'm Melinda, Emerson, Small Biz Lady. Click the button below and take my free boss quiz. This assessment will help you learn your entrepreneur type and find the right business model for you. Get this information about the #1 asset in your business. Yeah, that's you.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm here with serial entrepreneur Eric Brown, and he's talking to us about how to become a second act entrepreneur. All right, Eric, I want to talk more about your second act. Tell me about these, what'd you say, 150, 200 hot sauces? I mean, how are you selling them? Do you have a website? Are you selling them on Amazon? Like, how are you marketing this new business? And are you finding that, being an e-commerce business is a lot better than being, an actual retailer, dealing with customers every day?
Sure. So one of the things, actually, both of my daughters, my one daughter is 40, the other one is 35, but they're both small business owners, and they live in mid-state Ohio, just a small rural community. But my one daughter has it's a gift store, but it's like a resale shop. So she rents out a 10 by 10 space, which is it's a pretty interesting platform for someone to economically get into business. So I just got a little space from her and started setting things up. But I also tried to pick products that I was going to sell that have a certain sort of underground following that can actually bring more business into her store. So a lot of the thought process around it was for that reason.
Mm-hmm. So are you selling online at all, or just through her store?
We are, yeah. We're selling, but her store. So part of what you get when you rent a space is she's got a Shopify store, and you're able to put your product up there.
Sure.
And then I ended up helping her do some marketing work. So it's, kind of a family, a family thing.
And people don't know this, but how you became famous and how I even met you was because you were a pioneer in using social media in the housing industry. And gosh, I don't remember how many years ago it was. I actually profiled you in my column in the New York Times.
Yes.
Because you were doing some things that were very unique, and you were really revolutionizing your industry, and people were holding you up as a national model to follow. And that's how we first met. And you've just continued to grow and ebb and flow. I mean, gosh, I don't even remember how many years I've known you, Eric, but you always are doing something cool. So with that, I actually wanted to ask you, after 25 years or so in business, what cyclical trends have you noticed?
I think at the end of the day, and we've certainly seen lots and lots of changes in social media. There was a time when we first started blogging back in like 2004 or something, like 2005, it was amazing to me. We could write an article, and this thing called web traffic went up, And then it didn't take too long to figure out there was more renters coming through the door. And then with many cases, when marketers get involved, they kind of, they have a tendency to muck up the field, right? So, you know, suddenly everyone became a content creator, and it got kind of messy. But at the end of the day, what worked and applied then, which is providing value to the customer, is as true today as it ever was. So if you're just writing content to write content, you just get lost.
Sure.
But if you're providing value to the customer, and it could be as simple as having the phone number in the right place. I mean, there's a lot of little things, but I think the bottom line is you have to provide value.
I agree. And on that note, last question, what is the best business advice you've ever received?
You never make money paying interest.
And
what I mean by that isn't necessarily, you know, there's good debt and there's certainly bad debt, but for things like, as I progressed through my career, things like buying equipment, and I just always try to do that out of cash versus getting a loan. It's pretty easy to get loans, and then it's kind of hard to make the payments.
I think that's a mic drop right there. Thank you so much, Eric Brown. You know, I always learn something every time I talk to you. Thank you so much for being here, and don't go anywhere. But when we come right back, we're going to be talking with a leader of a nonprofit who has developed a program specifically to help Black women entrepreneurs. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and you're watching the Small Biz Chat live podcast, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to Small Biz Lady University. Our mission here is to end small business failure. So all of the courses here are about two things: how to become your own boss or how to make money online. So that's what we do here. So whether you want to learn about email marketing and sales funnels, or you're ready to get started with social media selling, or if you're really just getting started with e-commerce, you might want to jump into our How to Sell and Market Online course. Either way, if you want to learn how to become your own boss and do it well, I have everything you need here at smallbizladyuniversity.com. If you have any questions or have any technical problems getting signed up, just email us at support@melindaemerson.com. Take care.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, your host. And now I have a special guest. Her name is Renee Johnson. She is an advocate, policymaker, and innovative strategist with over 15 years advocating for women of color in politics, policy, entrepreneurship, and leadership. As the co-director of Reimagine Main Street and senior advisor to public-private strategies, Renee Johnson develops innovative strategies that impact small business needs with a focus on access to capital, especially for business owners of color. Renee's tenure includes serving as the training director at the United States of Women and serving as the District of Columbia's Department of Human Services Director of Legislative Policy in a variety of roles. Renee, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight, Melinda. Truly appreciate it.
All right, so talk to us. I know that you are the co-director of the Reimagine Reimagine Main Street.
Well, we got to reimagine Wall Street too.
Right. Wall Street is part of the problem, but we'll get to them later. But tell me, what is your initiative? Tell me what it is, how you guys created it, and what is your long-term goal, with the organization?
Yeah. So, the start of COVID, everyone was just like, what is this? What is COVID? How does this impact my life? we were seeing people getting sick, businesses were shutting down, people were, not being good constituents to our partners in the AAPI community. They were being just really racist to people in Chinatowns across the country. If we all really remember, we were like, what is this coming over to the United States? And we were seeing different from Chinatowns, main streets, Cesar Chavez ways that were shutting down. And so what we did was we were like, we need to make sure that minorities are at the center of recovery, because we saw very clearly at the beginning when Congress came into action with the PPP, the COVID EIDL, and all the other relief programs, many minority or small businesses were not getting funded. So the small businesses and their workers, we want to make sure that they rebound from the COVID-19 crisis and their communities thrive, right? The benefits ripple throughout the economy for everyone. We are a multi-stakeholder, cross-sector initiative focused on advancing and uplifting innovative solutions with dialogue and data to ensure that these communities, regardless if you're on MLK, Cesar Chavez Way, Chinatowns, and Main Streets, are at that center of recovery. And so Reimagine Main Street, we are a project of Public-Private Strategies Institute. And our long-term goal, making sure we're still at that center of recovery, because we're not out of this yet, right? We don't know if a new variant is coming. We just heard today that there's Delta Omicron. I don't know what kind of transformer that is, but hey, there's more that may be coming and meets the eye. And we want to make sure that as we continue on with trying to figure out where we are, that small businesses that are impacted are definitely getting resources, help, and assistance, so they're not at the beginning of COVID where they were.
So I know one of the initiatives that you guys launched was this Backing Black Business program. Tell me about that, and how did you fund it, and who did it help?
Yeah, so the Backing Black Business, say that 3 times fast, Small Business Grants Program is one of our projects, and it was dedicated to ensure Black women-owned businesses and others nationwide achieve an equitable recovery from the economic impacts of COVID-19. The program awarded $2 million in cash grants, right? So straight cash, not any kind of coupons, or you could use this on a wife, no, straight cash grants. And they range from $5,000 to $50,000 to more than 200 Black women small business owners and entrepreneurs who either started their businesses during the pandemic or who prayerfully and thankfully successfully navigated their businesses through the pandemic. And as we all know, COVID-19 hit Black women businesses across the country very, very hard. And now as signs of recovery are starting to emerge, Black women are starting new businesses at record rates. And we recognize the power of Black women-owned businesses. By providing these cash grants, advertising support, and other valuable resources to these women who launched their businesses or who have made it through, we can collectively fuel the aspirations and boost the trajectory of these 200 Black women entrepreneurs across the country. We're really excited about this. We just know that this has really impacted in some way someone's life, and we're just excited that we have this opportunity. We worked with Meta, who powered this, formerly known as Facebook, and we are actually going to do another round of $2 million later this year for AAPI small businesses. So there's more to come on that too later.
Now, when you say AAPI, is that Asian American? Is that
Asian American? Yes. And I know that this is airing later, but today, actually, as we're talking, is the day, is a 1-year anniversary of the unfortunate incident that happened in Atlanta with the spa incident where 8 workers were unfortunately lost their life to, racial biases. And so that's why it's so important that we work together and talk to different communities and uplift these small business owners and their workers to ensure that they're not only safe, but they're provided these resources so that their communities are able to thrive throughout COVID-19 as well.
Good stuff, good stuff. So let's talk about access to capital, because no matter where I go, no matter what conversation I get into, when we start talking about what makes small businesses struggle, particularly women and minority businesses, it is this issue of access to capital. And what we know is that 8,000 small business loans are turned down every day in America. 8,000. So what is being done from an advocacy standpoint to figure out some new models for how lending is done? Because I believe that credit scoring has really become a very punitive thing for people. And I don't know about you, but most of the people that I know that have bootstrapped their business, they might have a $5 million business now, but they've missed 2 mortgage payments and that stuff is on their credit for forever, right? So I just feel like, when are we going to look at some different models? Because I have heard of businesses, multi-million dollar businesses, getting turned down from loans because they say the business owner is too personally leveraged or because of credit scoring. And what is being done about this to give people, greater access to capital?
So we can talk about this until we're blue in the face. And unfortunately, that's what's happening, because Dodd-Frank, right, is a piece of legislation that happened prior to me going to college, I believe. So that's how long it's been. And if you know Senator Dodd and Senator Frank, that's how long, or Congressman, excuse me, that's how long it's been. They actually had Initiative 1071, which is a section within this piece of legislation that actually talked about how small business loans and credit should be sort of like the data collection from banks. And essentially, we're supposed to, at this point in time, know exactly who is actually getting denied. So whether you're a woman, you're a Hispanic man, you are 25, what type of business, all of these demographic points are supposed to be collected. And unfortunately, it's never been implemented. Never been implemented. So we can't even get to how do we create solutions for real, because banks aren't even held to this accountability standard. So 1071, there are many organizations that are working to do the work. There has been rulemaking now to actually try to push this further. The CFPB is working to try to do something with this now and implement it. So there's some sort of standard here now. And then also going back to the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan that came out, as we all know, there wasn't any data collection at first, right? So we didn't know who was getting it, but we knew who was getting it, right? And so once that was exposed, Congress came back and was like, oh, okay, well, now we'll institute some reporting requirements. And so now, banks are required to collect certain data requirements. And then all of a sudden we had to provide alternative opportunities for those who did not meet specific criteria with normal banking or traditional banks, because they actually use 7A. And if you know anything about 7A, it usually, for the most part, statistically did not allow for communities of color to get loans. So if you didn't get a 7A loan normally, you weren't going to get a PPP. So right there, institutionally, we have created loopholes, if you will, for minority communities, women businesses to not have access during COVID, right? So right then and there, we see the problem. So we needed to fix those stopgaps. Now, after we do that, we know that there's a meeting CDFIs, community financial deposit institutions, that are working to assist minority small businesses. There's MDIs, there's Black banks out there that want to be able to provide assistance to small business owners of color. So there's those opportunities. But
I want to stop you right there, because I'm in Philadelphia and I know that there's a lot of money in this town, but there's a lot of CDFIs that have policies more stringent than the bank. These people are holding on to their money and not making loans either. Or if they do, they're frankly, some of their terms are rather draconian, almost like some of the merchant advance lenders. So I think
that's a problem.
That is a problem, but I don't think that's being looked at. And I think there was so much money that was pushed out to the CDFIs. And I think just like every small business development center, is it the same? Every CDFI is not
created equal.
No. And so I think there's some opportunity there to look at what's going on, because I think CDFIs, they might deal with a slightly lower credit score, but I just know people that don't want to call the CDFI either, right? So I just put that out there. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I know right now there's a lot of focus on Black women entrepreneurs, and we know this is because Black women are starting businesses at 4.5 times everyone else. However, I know that there's all these corporations that have made all these pledges. Some have given out money and helped people, and a whole bunch of them just made pledges and haven't done anything. And so what I wanted to ask you was whether or not you think Black women are still going to be the focus of some of these public-private philanthropy efforts, over the next 3 to 5 years, or do you think this is a, 2-year thing and we're going to be out of this business and they're going to be on to the next thing?
As long as I'm out here, I'm going to be advocating for the next 3 to 5 years, the next 20, God willing. And I hope you are too. And I hope our other guests are here today are doing the same, because you know why? Privilege allows power, allows access. And so for those who are able to go into a bank and have the ability and don't have to worry about using credit cards to fund their business, hey, great for you. Now come and join this party and this bandwagon and be a voice and echo what the issues that we have, because unfortunately, so many in our community have to do that. And until we are all united in this fight together as one voice, letting people know that this is a consistent systemic issue, it's not going to change. And we cannot let people stop thinking about it and moving on to the next issue, because it's only going to get worse years from now. And we're only going to see more women needing more assistance to start their businesses.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right, my last question for you is, what is the best business advice that you have ever received?
So this is going to sound funny because my dad is a little funny. There's only one you. Just like there's thousands of toilet paper companies, everybody gotta buy a roll. So no matter what it is that your business is, there might be another one out there, but there's not a you. So do you make that business happen, because no one could do your business like you. Charmin has competitors, but when you go to the store, guess what you do? You make a decision every time. If Charmin costs a little too much, you may go with their competitor. So make sure your business is dedicated for you, because there's only one you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Renee Johnson, for being here. I have really enjoyed talking with you and learning more about the work that you're doing. And I'm definitely out here advocating with you, alongside you, all the way. Now, what I would like to do now is bring back my other guests, because now we're going to have what I call my favorite segment, which is called Hit It and Quit It. Now, here's how it works. I'm going to ask each of you the same question, and you only have 30 seconds to answer. And you cannot repeat somebody else's answer, or you're going to get the cowbell. And I don't want to give you the cowbell. So here's what I need you to do. Since Barbara, you are now back with us and you've been waiting the longest. So I'm starting with you. Then I'm going to go to Eric, and then I'm going to Renee. So our very first question for our panel is, what is your favorite podcast? What is your favorite podcast?
I actually am addicted to TED Talks. I spend so much time thinking, breathing, and living small business that podcasts are my escape. And I derive so much inspiration from all of the TED Talks that I just love them. I also like how I built my business.
Mm-hmm. I like that one too. I like that one too. That's a good one. All right, Eric, what about you? What's your favorite podcast?
My favorite podcast it's called the Sedona Method. It's a spiritual podcast, and that's my favorite.
I love it. I actually have that book, The Sedona Method, so I know about that. Renee, what is your favorite podcast?
Shameless plug. You probably didn't know. I have my own podcast, the Rose Hour Podcast, where we talk about wine. Love it. And I talk to different winemakers from across the world that are small business owners. Check it out today, the Rose Hour Podcast.
Wow. Oh, love it. Shameless plug. I'm not mad at you. All right. Next question. I'm coming to you first, you, Renee, and then lastly, you, Barbara. What is your favorite business app? What is your favorite business app?
My favorite business app. Okay. Right now, it is, I'm going to it, Asana, because it keeps me so organized and I can organize other people. And I'm type A.
I couldn't have guessed that, right? All right. Good job. All right. Barbara, what is your favorite business app?
HubSpot.
HubSpot.
I think it's very well designed. And it always works.
I love HubSpot too. And their content on their blog is like amazing.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
Eric, what's your favorite business app?
Starbucks.
Your favorite app is Starbucks? Really? That's your favorite business app?
Maybe I don't understand the question.
Okay, so that's your favorite app that you go to. That's the one you use. But I'm saying in terms of apps that you use in your business, what is your favorite app that you use in your business?
Shopify.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Now, next question. I'm going to come to you, Eric, first, and then you, Barbara, and then you, Renee. What is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth referrals. Love it. Love it. All right, Barbara, what's your favorite old school marketing tip?
Again, I'm going to go back to know your why, because everything starts with that.
Love it. Renee, what about you?
Always sell. You always are selling.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. You're selling yourself before you sell anything else. And last question for all of you, and I'm going to go back to how we did it in the beginning. We're going to start with you, Renee. We're going to start with you, Barbara, then Eric, then Renee. What is the best business book you've ever read?
This was a while ago, but I would have to say by Daniel Pink, Drive.
I like that book too. Eric, what's your favorite business book?
Think and Grow Rich.
That's a good one. Oldie but goodie. Love it. Renee, what's your favorite business book?
Going historical, 48 Laws of Power.
That was a good one. That was a good one. And the 50th Law of Power was actually really good too by 50 Cent, believe it or not. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you again to my guest, Barbara Casey. You can reach her at mobilehigh5.com. Eric Brown, please jump on Amazon and grab a copy of his new book, The Second Act Entrepreneur. And thank you, Renee Johnson, who is co-director of ReinventMainStreet.org. So you can check out what she's doing with her program by going to that website. And thank you all for joining me for this episode of the SmallBizChat podcast. If you're working on your digital pivot, be sure to check out Small Biz Lady University, where you can sign up for my latest course, Social Media Selling. You can get everything you need to finally start developing and making the money that you deserve online. So go ahead and reserve your spot today at smallbizladyuniversity.com. You know, the mission of SmallBizChat is to end small business failure. And I thank you for allowing me to inform your small business journey once again. And I'll leave you with this. You never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. Take care, everybody.